Now, going into this fight, about a day or two before, it kind of clicked in my head that this fight I felt like was going to be something that we would ultimately hype up being something that ultimately was never going to happen. And I feel like the I feel like out of the majority, I feel like I'm lightly disappointed than other people actually are. Other people online are completely shitting this, and I can see some people calling this the worst fight ever. I can see people saying that this is one of the worst boxing matches in the history of the sport, which you can make a good argument for, considering who these two people are and how disappointing the fight ultimately was, and how hyped up the fight was, and how Mike's training looked, and just everything, like. And I know, like, past KD is kind of smiling right now because ultimately, like, when I first heard the fight was announced, I kind of knew that Jake was gonna win. I Because I mean, you're this is a 58. I mean, realistically, this is a 58-year-old Mike Tyson going up against a Jake Paul that's currently in his prime. And once the fight was called off the first time because of Mike's flare up, ultimately after that, I kind of knew, what the result was ultimately going to be. Now, I'm not really disappointed like other people are, but one, because I mean this was streaming off Netflix, and I this was like one of the cheapest big time fights I've ever had to pay for. Even well, I mean, like the Netflix streaming service is only like $15, so it wasn't really that much. But at the same time, this was like one of the cheapest things I've ever had to spend my money on. Even though I didn't really spend my money. Well, I did spend my money on the streaming service, just not particularly on this fight. I didn't even know the fight was going to be on Netflix, to be honest with you. Again, like, I only knew the fight was going to be on Netflix, I think, like, on Tuesday or Wednesday. Like, and I just had a big smile on my face thinking, man, like I'm lucky as shit, because I only got Netflix back to finish watching Better Call Saul. So, to see that Tyson versus Paul was going to be on Netflix, man, that's just luck in and of itself. But to be honest, I was never gonna pay like what $50 or 60 for this fight. How much was Tank versus Garcia? Like what, 60, $50? I was never gonna pay that much for this fight because I feel like I'd rather watch, and I feel like I have this same mentality with every other Jake Paul fight. And that's not to say like Jake Paul is like a boring or bad boxer or anything. It's just I respect Jake more than I did previously. But regardless of how hyped he is and regardless of him being quote unquote the most talked about name in all of boxing right now, he's not the type of guy I would spend my money on compared to guys like, say, like a Canelo or a Ryan Garcia or a Tank, or Javante Davis, or like for a fight, say like Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Even though watching that fight live, it was entertaining, but seeing how fixed the fight was afterwards, well, it really wasn't like a stage fight, but it was like it was a big mess because like fucking Haney got knocked down like 3 or 4 times in that fight, and then Ryan, I believe he was on some type of juice or some drug or something like that had him go faster or stronger or something like that helped him, beat Haney. So that fight was a big mess. But my point being is high quality fighters like that, not based off their star power and their name, are fighters that I'm looking to see. Kings of the sport, if you will. Like for example, Javante Davis versus Ryan Garcia. That's a fight I would gladly pay my money for, and I did back when I was in college. Back when I was in my college dorm, like it was me and my friends. I gladly pay for that fight for all of us to come sit there and watch the fight. Because one, that was a great fight, and two, that was really a clash of the Titans. Tyson versus Paul did not at all feel like that. This felt like a big time hyped up fight, like I said, that ultimately wasn't what any of us thought it was truly going to be. Well, I kind of did. I don't know. I don't really know about everybody else though, but and it really hit me because like again like I'm not as disappointed as other people are, and one of those reasons might be because the fact that I saw this fight the morning after, because it was going on like 9 or 10, and I was getting tired and I already had to wake up early for work the next morning, so that's what I ultimately did. So I went to sleep, woke up around like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. Then I went to watch the Paul versus Tyson fight, and while I'm watching the fight, I like the entrances are going, and ultimately I start to feel this dread just come upon me before the bell rings, and I wouldn't call it disappointment, but I kind of felt that the fight was going to be disappointing as the entrances went on, and as they're naming their like the statistics are up on the left side of the screen, and the announcer is going over their height and their weight, and they're talking, about the fighters, and and I'm just feeling like this disappointment just loom upon me, basically. And again, ultimately, I kind of knew that this fight ultimately was not going to be what people ultimately thought it was going to be. And I know people are going to, and if there's one person in this fight that I feel truly bad for, it's got to be Jake. I mean, the guy is in the dream match of his life, facing Mike Tyson in Arlington, Texas, on November 20th, 2024. Or no, November 15th, I believe. Yeah, November 15th. Texas. Jesus, I can't talk. And he's facing off against, one of the legends in boxing, one of the pillars of the sport. Some would even say is greater than Muhammad Ali. But you have, like you got the MJs and the Kobe's, and then you got the Tysons and the Ali's, and Jake has the honor of facing one of those guys, one of the pillars of the sport. But in reality, he's gonna get ridiculed because he beat a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. And what I said about this being a lose-lose situation for Jake is the fact that if he won, he beat a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. But if he lost to a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. So I find it to be quite hilarious and and kind of upsetting, the fact that Jake has to go through the struggle of people dashing him, the fact that he got to go through his dream match, but ultimately is going to get ridiculed because he beat a 58-year-old man. And I already saw like the memes on Twitter. Oh, Joe Biden is next. Joe Biden is next. I think somebody said fucking just all these old actors and just figures and celebrities and shit. And people are just saying, again, bro, Twitter is a toxic place, but like if you're watching like a football event or some sporting event, like Twitter is the funniest place that you could ever that you could ever look through while watching an event live. Like honestly, the memes and just people just coming up with this shit on the fly, it's just funny. But yeah, the fight, it was what it was. I feel like Tyson was just kind of taking the damage instead of delivering it. It felt like he was trying to deliver it more in the first two rounds, and I think from, I believe, round 3 or 4 and then onwards, he just started to get the shit. Like he just started to stand there like he was a Minecraft character, with the controller down, basically. Like you left the controller down, your mom's calling you for dinner, and your character is just standing there. Except Tyson was moving around. He wasn't really moving his arms. He was only on defense instead of on offense. And I heard from somebody that I knew that Tyson had this exact same stance in the Lennox fight, which is ironic because I believe Lennox was he was one of he wasn't one of the hosts, but he was on he was talking, I believe, after the Nuez fight, the Godad and Nuez fight, the first fight of the show. And I mean, the audio there was terrible. I don't know what these people are doing, to be honest with you. Like, there was like a couple of communication errors. They even showed Tyson's bare ass, like, in one of the clips, and I didn't see it live, but again, I saw it on Twitter because they don't miss anything. But yeah, going back to what I said, Tyson, it felt like he was honestly just kind of standing there throughout the crux of the fight, like he wasn't really fighting back as the fight went deeper and deeper. And again, like you can even hear it on commentary that the commentary team was even starting to feel bad for Tyson, and he's just getting the shit. He wasn't really getting the shit beaten out of him. Like, I don't think it was that bad. And one thing that I do hate about this fight now, I hate when people call boxing fixed or rehearsed or fake. But either Jake, either Jake felt this intimidation from Mike, or it's the simple fact that he was taking it light on Mike. Because there were a couple of times where like you watch Jake Paul's highlights, and the guy could have easily knocked down Tyson a good couple of times, but Mike just kept standing there, and it felt like it made me feel like this same feeling from the Mayweather Paul fight, when Logan faced off with Mayweather. And I believe Floyd knocked down Logan a couple of times, but for some reason he kept holding Logan up for some ungodly reason instead of putting us out of our misery and just knocking the boy down. Like, now that's fixed, like Floyd trying to extend the fight for whatever reason, wasting our time, even though he in his own mind, he probably thinks that, oh, we got to give the people what they paid for. But in reality, you're just wasting all of our times. People came for a knockout. People came for a knockdown. And granted, we're not going to get that in every single big time fight. But at the same time, excuse me. But at the same time, you got to make the fight look as real as possible. Like, this is why I praise Gervonta Davis, Tank versus Ryan. Because this is a fight where this shit was real. Where that this shit was not fixed at all whatsoever. Like, this nigga Ryan took a whole on liver shot and he went to his knee and he knew that he was defeated. That's the type of boxing that people like myself pay to see. We don't really pay to... Now, guys like Jake and Logan, they do a great job at really hyping up the fight, but when you watch some of their fights, it's kind of... When you watch some of their fights, and people say that it's kind of fixed, like, you can't help but, like, not, heed the argument, because, again, it feels like Jake could have, like, not only thrown more punches, but he could have, like, knocked Tyson down, maybe. I don't know. I'm not in Paul's position, so I can't really say, but I believe he got, I believe he got in I think about 58 hits on Tyson in like 8 rounds. So I feel like he could have done a lot more, considering that this was his quote unquote dream match. But like I said, I feel like this might have been a mix of intimidation and fear. Not like, like full on fear, but like, like a hair standing up on the back of his head or something, like he felt some intimidation and he felt like Tyson could have just got in there and just bam. And it looked like Tyson was going to a couple of times, but, in the first couple of rounds, they both kind of shown some good offense and defense. So, yeah, just looking at Tyson's training and seeing this fight, it is kind of disappointing. But considering what Mike's going through at his age, we can only just be happy for the guy that he even got in the ring at this stage of his life and his career. So it is what it is, man. I'm not as disappointed, like I said, about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. I believe I got everything I wanted to get in about my thoughts about the fight. And yeah, man, I'm a full-on boxing fan. And for me, and I'm sure for other people, this fight didn't really live up to the boxing standards of what we think. But at the same time, like I said before, you're not going to get a TKO, you're not going to get a knockout, you're not going to get a knockdown in every single fight like the one the Joshua fight. I forgot the guy that Joshua was facing, but he got knocked out and knocked down a couple of times. And even in that fight, like the ref, like the nigga would not call the fight. Like the nigga got knocked down a good couple of times, but he just like for some reason, like I just I hate the like, bro. I know it's not the referee's fault completely, but like, god damn. Like I just want to knock out the referee personally myself because you're completely just like you're just fucking mocking my intelligence. Like, bro, just call the match. Like, so yeah. I mean, there's gonna be fucking paid off referees in football and boxing and in other fucking sports for years to come. So yeah, man. That's really all I wanted to talk about. So yeah, peace.